Oxy, so this should be easy. If you can go ahead and establish a quorum for me, Damon.
All right, we have on Zoom, Andrew Barnhart, Chris Harris, and Kristen Kruger. In person, we have Ms. Bailey Bennett Williams, Steve Commode via proxy, Jesse Betts via proxy, John Asher via proxy, Mr. Lance Hamner, Ms. Angela Morris, Mr. Tony Burgess, and Mr. Kevin Walls. We have a quorum.
Okay, we need the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting on April 8th, 2025. Minutes were sent out to everybody. If there are no requested changes, I need a motion to approve the minutes from the previous CCAB and JRAC meeting on April 8th.
I'll make a motion.
We got two. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No one's opposed, passed. Tony Povinelli, Adult Community Report.
Financials, commissary balance, we're sitting at $69,516.60. Project income, we have a cash balance of $46,863.04. And the DOC grant, we get the payments every month, so.
You're on.
Sounds different. There we go.
There's your proxies.
Back that away. We are good there. Staffing update, we are fully staffed, so that's good. A couple people in training, and we start a new field officer on Thursday. Census, as of a week and a half ago, we have 88 in work release, 78 males, 10 females, 133 on home detention, and 32 on alcohol monitoring. Those are the highest numbers that we've had certainly since we took over, but we've got an Excel spreadsheet that tracks all this since 2017, and they are the highest numbers since 2017. So business is good. No old business. New business, transfer funds, requesting a vote to transfer $30,000 from overtime line item 100 series to professional services, the 300 series.
Okay, to provide an adult community corrections with the permissions to make the transfer from the 100 series to the 300 series professional services, I need a motion.
So moved.
Bob, and a second?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a quorum?
We do.
do.
We have people online. And is that your second?
Yes, it is.
And Bill, second. Thank you.
It's not illegal to second it.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
I do have another new business item that came in last week after I sent the items to Damon. We received our 2026 award letter from our DOC grant for $785,564. That is the same number that we got for 2025, which, considering the DOC grant budget got cut by $7 million going into next year, that is a win. So we had lots of meetings with DOC, community corrections folk, and they had been assuring us that we were safe. We're doing all the things that they want to see. Not all community corrections were as lucky, and certainly not probation. They tried to focus their cuts on probation. So we are happy to have been able to maintain and not go down.
Awesome. We'll move on to the building committee. Kevin, Tony, or Angela, you guys have an update on it?
No news is good news. Walls are going up, everything's moving right along, and I haven't got any desperation calls, so.
We had a meeting this morning. Tony and I meet with the construction team every 2 weeks. They are pouring, goal is to pour slab in Unit D next Tuesday. Interior slab for Unit C in 2 weeks. Like, it's really coming along if you want to drive back there and look, or it's happening.
It's awesome. The juvenile committee report.
Yes, so, for our financial report, our project income balance is sitting right at around $111,000. General fund balance is $197,000. DOC grant about $38,000. Even though our DOC fiscal year ended June 30th, we still have outstanding claims that need to get paid, so that number will be cut drastically. Same with our DCS grant, ended June 30th, but our numbers will get cut once all the claims get paid. Staffing update, not a whole lot of changes. We have gone through some like restructuring as far as programming goes and what days program is being offered, and to make sure that the program we offer is effective. I don't have the census reports. This is my first day back in the office for 10 days, and it was a struggle to get caught up on things, so I will send that out to the advisory board once I get that completed. And then I have, as far as everything else goes, we are working on our budget for 2026, as are we. And our biggest thing that we've had is our DCS grant that we get from the state that's managed through Firefly was cut pretty substantially. From $40,000 to $35,000 to $20,000. And then we got an email last week telling us it's actually $19,000. So they cut another chunk of money off of it. So we've been working with council to make that up in additional appropriations, general fund, and we'll have to expand what we'll need in general fund to for that in the next fiscal year. And that's all I have, unless there's questions.
Okay, we'll move on to the JRAC, Angela or Sheena.
Yes. Okay, so I've gone over what JRAC is before. It's a statutory committee that went into law in July of 2021. It mandated who is included in this multidisciplinary team. But what I wanted to do is go back to January of 2020 and talk about APIC, which was the Adult Practices Improvement Committee. Judge Kirkendall and I had asked Judge Clark to help us create this, and at the time, Judge Hamner and Judge Reisner also wanted Judge Clark to help us form this. We were going to review programming, analyze data, and see how we're using evidence-based practices to improve the adult system. Those of you who've been around long enough have heard us talk about JPIC for decades now, like 2 decades probably, and Judge Clark formed that in the juvenile system. So we went as far in our one little meeting we had for APIC and formed subcommittees that included pretrial release, courthouse security, programming and incentives, sanctions, jail overcrowding, and our sequential intercept model. The first 3 projects that APIC did were pretrial through Criminal Rule 26. We started that in June of 2019 in preparation for the implementation of Criminal Rule 26 in 2020. We created a jail navigator position established in October of 2020, and then helped create CIT along with Sheriff's Office, Johnson County Courts and Probation in January of 2021. Then in July of 2021, local JRAC went into law. Governor Holcomb signed House Enrolled Act 1068, and here we are now with a state mandated adult multidisciplinary team. And so I think the purpose of providing some of that background information is just Judge Kirkendall and Judge Clark and I had already started this and we're rolling with it. COVID hit. That halted our progress with APIC. Local JRAC came into effect July of 2021. I have minutes from our first APIC meeting, if anyone would like them, and then an overview of what APIC is and local JRAC up here if anybody wants them, so.
So when Angela explained that to me, obviously I wasn't part of it back in 2020, but that, I thought, everybody needs to know it was our idea. Like, you guys thought of it, and then JRAC came into law, right? JRAC, since I've started, has been like this ethereal thing that I can't get my arms around. We had a meeting with, what's Denise?
Center for Effective Public Policy
Center for Effective Public
that the
Policy.
Supreme Court has hired to help counties with their local JRACs. And I sit on the state JRAC as the Probation Officer Association president with Justice Goff, and therefore, and then that transpires to her and I meeting with a lady named Denise from the Center for Effective Public Policy that the Supreme Court paid for.
Right, and so she will help us as much or as little as we want. But at this point, I think in order to kind of jumpstart JRAC again, it might help us to have some data. So I've already talked to Sheila Carlisle and I've talked to Andy Barnhart. I think there's going to be 2 sources of data we can start looking at to see where we might want to move in the future. So I think we're doing pieces of it and parts of it in our little factions already, but just not bringing it to the full group. So I think that's kind of where we're starting, hoping that we had some data that will jumpstart some projects. Right?
Yeah.
So, starting at our next quarterly meeting, we're going to have some data. If the JRAC members, and not all of you are JRAC members, and that's another thing we're going to change. We're going to start adjourning the CCAB meeting and moving right into JRAC. So in the same time frame, but just a little different players to a certain extent. So we'll start doing that. If anybody can think of the kind of data they would like to see at the JRAC meeting that might initiate some discussion, then we can seek that out. Anything else?
Can I ask a crazy question?
Yes,
Okay, with JRAC, you're gonna create programs.
we already have
I know,
programs.
the programs are gonna cost money.
We already
And I
pay
just
for them.
heard that they cut $7 million from DOC's budget.
Well, and maybe that's where we need to start then. Maybe you just gave us an idea.
I'm just saying, that's something we need to keep our eye on.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want you to move forward, but they don't give you any capital to move forward with.
That's fair.
So,
Are you
Yeah.
suggesting that the state has an unfunded mandate?
Do you want to speak into the microphone?
Really? I think everybody's gonna face that. I just wanna keep that on everybody's forefront.
No, for sure. And so the sequential intercept model that they keep preaching to us, it's a map that takes you from, hey, you just got arrested, and all the things that happen afterward, where you're trying to identify gaps, which is why we thought if we started with some data, which would include programming data, which could include timelines. Christy Bruther is really good at that. She does it for our JPIC stuff. Then that would help us identify the gaps in our system. And maybe your gap is programming, maybe it's funding for the programming, but I mean, those are the kinds of information that we're looking for. Fair?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the most meaningful thing I've ever said about JRAC. So I hope everybody was paying
Hard to
attention.
put your finger
It didn't mean anything at all to me until something clicked a little bit. Okay, do you have anything else?
So I do need approval of the JRAC minutes from April 8th, 2025 meeting that Damon sent out earlier this morning. So if I can get a motion and a second. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So yeah, in October, we will adjourn our CCAB meeting and then pick up the JRAC meeting. And I would encourage JRAC members to invite their
Data person.
data person.
We all got data people.
So I've sent mine out and the 3 of them will be attending. We've already talked to Chief Barnhart and Sheila, so I think we're moving in the direction that the state is wanting.
Okay. We need a motion and a second to approve the amended bylaws that were presented to everybody for approval.
I'll make that motion.
No, mine's the second.
I did. Yep.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes. The ratification of email votes that we had for the JCC grant amendment. Need a motion and a second to ratify the email and vote conducted by the Juvenile Community Corrections Grant Amendment. Need a first? Bill, second? McGee. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Do you have anything else for the good of the order? Just need a motion to adjourn.